Drives like a giant remote control car. It all started late 90s when I was a kid in high school watching Speed Vision, Motorsport Mundial, WRC races. McRae was in the Subaru and then he went to Ford, but I always loved the Subarus, and there was always something about the sound and they were so dominant, you know, since mid-90s all the way up until 2004. And I grew up in Middle Georgia driving down dirt roads, pretending to be a rally car driver because that's all that was around, and I'm still doing that now. 2002, I was in high school and I watched, you know, basically the full season. So at some point I watched, you know, my car on TV, you know, ripping around, you know, Rally Corsica. A long time goes by, always a Subaru fan, has some STIs. My wife is a huge Subaru fan. She has a WRX Bug-Eye that she loves. That's like her baby. Was racing, became a professional race car driver. One of the mechanics on the team was really into rally racing and the rally scene in the States, and he was building rally cars and stuff like that. And he knew the guy that owns Dirtfish Rally. So I kind of got connected with Steve, the guy that owns Dirtfish. And actually he sponsored my 24 Hours of Daytona car in 2010 when I drove with Dempsey Racing. So we already knew each other. He's got a bunch of cool cars, RS200, a Burns, Subaru WRC, a McRae Ford. He connected me with another guy named Ian in London. And Ian restored the 95 championship McRae Subaru for the McRae family. And he's like the guy. Told him what I wanted. And I guess the whole process took about 2 years from when I was ready to make it happen and finally got the car. I wanted a car with WRC, you know, history, a car that had been run by the Subaru World Rally team and driven by somebody, either Solberg, you know, Mäkinen, and my car ended up being driven by both. It was driven by Mäkinen in Corsica in 2002 WRC, and then Solberg in Gravel Spec Rally New Zealand in 2002. The car was in Ireland when we found it and had been club rallied for the past 10 years by an older gentleman, and it was in pretty rough shape. It was just blue with the guy's company's graphics on it. And a WRC car usually is competitive for about 10 years. I had never even seen a Bug-Eye WRC car, you know, 01, 02 round headlight in my life. I'd seen older ones, I'd seen McRae, two-door chassis, and seen newer ones, but never even actually saw a Bug-Eye. So I bought a car that not only have I never seen the car I bought, I had never seen one, period. So the first time I saw it was when it was all done, when it got delivered in Atlanta. But we went through the car, gave it a lot of love, took it back to how it raced in Corsica Rally in 2002 when Mäkinen drove it. I was watching videos of him shake it down at the airport. A lot of cars had right-hand drive conversions because they're in England and they have to be driven on the street. And we had to convert it back to left-hand drive as it raced. So we had to find an original Prodrive dash, the original magnesium wheels that the car would have ran, Prodrive carbon bucket seats that were in the car. So if you look at a rally car, they all have number plates. And basically from the birth of that car, they get that rally plate. So you can go and look every rally, even though the car looks the same, it'll have a different number plate. And that's what chassis that is. And once you notice that, you start looking at different, you know, models and pictures and stuff. Because those cars, I think Prodrive built 8 of them in 2002. To me, actually made a model of my actual chassis. So Corsica Rally in 2002. And they still make it. So I was in Japan a couple of weeks ago and I was at the main Tamiya boutique store. And they had it in there for sale, so I bought it too. I built one when I was a kid, a Tamiya model. That's like a major cool factor for me. That's like one of the coolest things. My car's a multiple stage winner, and of course it was competitive, but it DNF'd both races that it did. So he had a rock and broke the suspension, he was done, and then Solberg was actually in 3rd overall on the final stage of the final day in Rally New Zealand with 17 kilometers to go and the motor blew up. So it's like, man, that's too bad, but if that wouldn't have happened, then I may not have the car now, or if the motor didn't blow off, he could have gone rolling off 10 times off course the next turn. So who knows? So when it was finally ready, we started looking at, okay, we can throw it in a container for like a month, or we can just fly it over. And I was pretty excited. I had just actually gotten married at the time, so I'd stalled doing anything for a month because my priority was definitely to get married. And then when we got back, trying to make a decision on how we're going to get it over, and said, let's just fly it. I can't wait any longer now. It was literally same day delivery, so it doesn't get much better than that. And we were just like super excited. My wife being a Subaru fan too, obviously we were both very excited. So we were waiting for the call, and it happened about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Delta cargo, your package is ready. It comes on a big metal pallet that they slide into the airplane. When they take it off the airplane, they put it on another big metal pallet with wheels. And I've seen it before because of the Porsche Cup cars and GT3 RSRs and stuff that I've taken delivery of, but it was more sketchy when it was my car. Guy driving a forklift's like, oh, that's Subaru with stickers on it, They roll it out outside and they're forklifting it around and picking it up, and there's another guy coming on the other side and the car's just kind of in the air and they got to scoot the pallet out underneath it. That all went well. I'd never been inside one of these things before. It's like a 8-step process just to crank it up. I had like an email with what to do. So then I get in the car and everybody's standing around waiting for it to crank up, I'm like flipping switches, and you got to do certain things in different orders. And you basically, once it gets cranked, you basically don't touch the throttle until it really has a lot of heat in it. And it's a sequential transmission, and you got to figure out, it's got different modes that activate and deactivate the differentials. Holy cow, like what the heck is going on? But I got it on the trailer. We got it back to my warehouse, and then it was pretty late then, probably 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. So of course, we got in it and did some laps around their warehouse. And everybody says, well, what does it drive like? It is a Subaru. When you look at it and you open the door, you see the A and B pillars, but it doesn't drive like anything at all. It drives like a giant remote control car that basically you're just turning the wheel and mashing the gas. And even in the middle of a slide, you say, I want to increase my ankle just a little bit. You can just put in the inputs and it responds instantly. But the thing that surprised me the most was the commitment it took to get it to rotate. I figured it'd be extremely easy to slide initially. It's very easy to slide when you're sliding, but to get it to slide initially and to get it to where you want takes a lot more commitment than I would have ever thought. So that made me respect the dudes that were driving around on the little narrow roads on a cliff. I think the most impressive thing is the torque. So, my car, we put a bigger restrictor in it, so basically it doesn't have a restrictor, and it basically makes like 500 foot-pounds of torque just flat across the power band, and it rips pretty hard. But I'm hoping rally gets more popular in the States. So we'll have like vintage events and stuff like that. So something I can drive the car but don't have to like try to race it or be competitive, because I don't want to risk it. Actually, there's some guys that are really kind of pushing, importing more cars and pushing for more stuff to happen in the States. It instantly kind of lived up to everything I'd always dreamed of, for sure.